We are coming towards the end of the Journey Together formats. This weekend coming up is Portland and also a special event going on in South Africa. And at the end of the month, we have the Bologna Special Championships as well, before we start turning our attention to the NAIC, which is really exciting. Speaking of exciting, we have 3 tournaments to go over and discuss today. Starting off with Melbourne, let's have a look at the day 1 and 2 sort of metagame spread. Dragapult and Gardevoir kind of hand in hand, 16 and 15% play rates. Raging Bolt in that 12% with Miraidon. Also, the Terrabox, quite a high representation for Terrabox. Typically, you would imagine a bit more Golden Go in there. Actually, Golden Go Pult being more popular than straight Golden Go in this instance. And also, no sign of the Enzoroark, despite having a couple of weeks of good results and being strong into the top 2. The issue of Enzoroark, of course, is that it's so limited into only being good into Dengo, Guardy, and Pult that maybe it's less strong of a wide meta pick. And possibly also there's an expectation for the Dengo side that there's going to be more Zoroark, which then makes it a slightly more difficult play. But yeah, let's have a look at the day 2 before we jump into the deck list themselves. This is really going to be like rattling off a bunch of things, because firstly I have 3 tournaments to talk about, but also we're getting more and more refined. We're going to see lots of list replication and like 1-card changes from very popular lists. But it does seem that in this case, in Melbourne, Dragapult was the big loser, in that Raging Bolt and Gardevoir were some of the most popular in day 2. Dragapult kind of just holding on, and then the other decks all in those same positions, to be honest with you. So like an okay conversion on the majority of the individual decks. Let's have a look at the list themselves then. Brent Tonneson with another victory under his belt with the exact same 60 of Gardevoir. I think a number of players also among this top cut. I believe Natalie and Angus both played the exact same 60. And we'll have a look at like the 1-card changes from the other Gardevoir players as well. But it's had so many great results. Like, why would you go against, firstly, the strongest player in the game right now, and secondly, just so many other people seeing success as well. And Gardevoir really dominated Melbourne. There was 5 of them in top 8. There was 11 in their asymmetrical cut, and they all made it through the asim as well. So they basically all won like an extra round in there. So very, very strong performance from Gardevoir on the whole. And it looks like the majority of the best Australians, especially because of like Brent's sort of testing group, and we know that Natalie, Brent test together, Angus in there as well. Like, many strong Australians probably come together and respect Brent's decision making of like, this is the best deck, let's play this, let's iron this out. So it doesn't surprise me that more tilted towards the Gardevoir side of things as the very best players in the room than playing a Dragapult. And also, when you're going to Australia, you know the other best Australians are probably playing Gardevoir. It makes the Dragapult a far scarier choice, right? So it's not surprising that for this metagame specifically, with a 560 player event, you know the best Aussies are going to be bringing Guardy. You can't really bring Pult yourself too safely. Let's quickly look at Jeremy's second place list. Doesn't look too different, just a couple Morty's Conviction coming into the list. The same Pokemon lineup, really similar on counts, I think just cutting a nest ball in there. But yeah, very similar counts overall. Like I said, at this point, going off the beaten path of Brent's list is like changing 1 or 2 cards and like, ooh, creative. But realistically, you should just be playing his list. We see Daichi Shimada, the second place Worlds finisher of London Worlds 2022, playing the Terra Box. And a few Japanese players were playing an archetype similar to this one. And we actually heard murmurings, you know, I was hearing from like messages that it was more checkbaiting. I even heard rumors that there was a Pidgeot and Dusknoir and Briar all in the deck, but clearly it's much more similar to just old Terra Box that we have spoken about. It's just that it has weaved in a Briar into the deck list, essentially. That's one of the only key differences. Also having a Jamming Tower in the list, similar to like a Raging Bolt, where you add the tower, suddenly you have a slightly better time against Gardevoir. Suddenly you can remove some of your damage stuff against even Dragapult and whatnot, deny 4 prize turns that they try and set up into you, that sort of thing. So this is a big card right now to be the sort of check to your own Underdepths, so you can have a bit more control over it. But really, it's a very similar shell that we've seen from Terrabox in the past, just piloted by one of the game's best players in Daichi. Nothing too surprising from the list itself, really, other than Buju coming into the list, so you can have a bit of slow turns in there when you need to and just buddy people back. I believe Callum was playing a slightly different list to Brent. Let's have a look. Third Candy. Oh yeah, I think it was minus Turo plus Candy. It was like the only difference between some other Australians playing a similar 60. And then we have Nigel Tan playing another Terrassal Toolbox. This one has the Lily's Pearl and a second copy of Clefairy, so leading a bit more into the Rondo and just saying we're going to be laughing our way through that matchup. I really like Rescue Board as well. Rescue Board very good in Terror Box because the first thing that's going to happen to you is going to be Stamp plus CC on your one Noctowl that you used turn 2. So having a Jewel Seeker way to Rescue Board out is really nice. So you can keep Crispening and have like your best attackers online. Most importantly, keep the pumps going with Wellspring. So that's a good card right now. There were also 3 Raging Bolts in the asymmetrical. Only one of them made it into top 8 itself. But yeah, still decent performances. This looks similar to Christian's list, actually having 2 copies of Baby Bolts, showing just how important that is and how you can't really prize it. Although what I will say is you already have Fezandipity right here, which is almost a Baby Bolt as well. I saw you can definitely transform into Fez as the backup, so I think you don't ever need 2 copies of this card. The only upside is this is obviously solderable, and this is only Crispin. But I think second Crispin over second Baby Bolt makes a bit more sense, just for your prizing issues, honestly. We see some more lists. The one Judge incorporated again. Yeah, there was a Churro in this list, actually. Interesting. So, Turo to give yourself a means of picking up Hoots, but also getting less trapped by Maractus. Maractus is definitely a fear factor card with a number of straight Dragapults employing that strategy, especially because they will ace nullify your prime. So having a Turo is actually pretty good for helping out there. Especially because you already play the Palpad in some instances. Obviously not all of them, but... yeah, more bolts, just doing bolt things. And also, this is one of the most interesting lists that I took a look at, Michael's Flareon box. I'm interested in playing this weekend, honestly. The Umbreon EX without any Darkness Energy in the deck list, so it does require you to not prize Umbreon or Sparkling Crystal, but it does give you a one-hit KO attacking answer into Gardevoir. And what's important is the likes of Kieran and Black Belt force you to play your supporter for the turn, which means the Gardevoir player has to have given you Gardevoir. Whereas if you have the Umbreon in the deck, you can be the one bossing and using Umbreon to take that sort of proactive 2-prize KO. So I think it's a little bit better in this instance to have the Umbreon as a backup, knowing that early game you're going to be burning charging through their single prize Pokemon, through their Budgies and whatnot, and setting up your EVs on the bench, and then you can evolve into that Umbreon and have a boss KO answer. I've definitely played a few games of this list just over the last couple of days, and the Umbreon has pulled its weight in Guardy. I think the matchup is still bad, but I think it's less like Giga Cope than it used to be. So the Umbreon's actually possibly worth picking up right now. I'm trying to figure out the space for it, though, because I think you could get away with one Sylveon, just because the Clefairy and the Sylveon sort of go hand in hand as your Pult answers. And Angelite is like good, but not in every single matchup. And I want to fit in a couple of cards into the deck list. I want to fit in Cyrano. I want to also play Glass Trumpets or Vessel or both. And then also I'm thinking about adding in the Jamming Tower that we see the Bolt and the Terror Box now both incorporate, so your Gardevoir is even more like safe, because otherwise they're just going to use Balloons and Screamtails into you. So punishing that more is important, but the Sparkling Crystal is even better in this deck than it is in Terror Box, because your Mons stick on the board that little bit longer, so it's a tough one to figure out. But yeah, I think the adaptation of Umbreon coming into Flareon is actually less weird than I saw initially. When I first saw this card, I was like, what is going on? But in practice, it does work out quite well. And I might be taking Flareon, honestly, to Portland, so keep an eye out for that. Let's move on to the European tournament. I was commentating this one, so I had a front row seat. The day one field was mostly Dragapult, then a little bit less for Bolt and Gardevoir. Looks like it was a more like evenly spread out tournament, I suppose you could say, with Miraidon being in there, Teal, Mask, and whatever, the Ogerpon box, okay. A random amount of unclassified. Now, I remember looking at some of the unclassified deck lists, and some of the Moon de Dunce fell under unclassified. I can't remember all the others, but there were definitely some that I was like, huh, maybe that shouldn't be called unclassified. That should be like given a deck title. But it's just how Arcanine does it, essentially. But there was still some Dengo Pulp. Eevee's in there, more Dengo. So like a 9% total of Dengo. That's always the thing you have to bear in mind, that Dengo is like among the top 6 of popularity. It would be alongside Miraidon Pikachu, right? It's just that it's split into different categories. The Charizard Pult made like a small resurgence because of the Champions League results, I would have to guess, but also there are some Europeans that have played this for a while. and then N's toolbox in there. Less population than I would think, you know? Maybe it's just because Bolt had done well the previous weekend, and it's like, oh, I can't take Zoroark into a field of possibly more Raging Bolt, which is a fair estimate, right? Because it did become the second most popular deck, and you really hope to face these two instead. Zoroark's also not great into Pikachu either. So realistically, the big basics are still checking Zoroark quite nicely. As you would kind of expect, the unclassified like fall off the day one, and it's Dragapult, Gardevoir in the tug of war still, the aggressive attackers still in the mix, Dengo and Eevee box. I think this is the right representation of the 6 best decks in the game, honestly. I can't think of any deck that I would want in this as like actually a better choice. Yeah, I think this is our 6 best decks in the game right now. What do you guys think? Yeah. And yeah, the Charizard Pop did okay and did fine. Frostus Monkey sneaking in, 5 of them into day 2. Let's have a look at some deck lists of the best performers. There were 8 actually in the top cut. And we start off with Yoa with a straight Dragapult. Dragapult was an absolute fest in Utrecht, littering the top tables. Some takeaway cards, Defiance Band you don't always see as one of the tool options. Sometimes this is the Luxurious Cape. We have the Maractus in here, which was a big tech card we saw used against Raging Bolt, and Labella's list has no answer to Ace Nullifier plus Corner, so it was like a checkmate situation. And more often we're seeing a Brock-Jacques split, actually. Not only Yoa, but also we see the same thing from Alberto coming into the list. Oh, and it's worth noting this is a Latias build. That's not always showing up in these Dragapults. Conti playing, again, that flip-flop of the tool. A 2-2 split of Brock and Jacques in this instance. No Lati, but has the switch and the rescue board. And yeah, the very high support accounts in here. Going on, as you'd expect, Johan, who has already won Special this season, came back with Bolt to a top 4 placement, and this is just Labella's list. They were unfortunately trapped by a Maractus because there was no answer in the deck list in the top 4 game. Noah, who's been having a couple tournaments over in Europe, was playing a Dustoir build of Dragapult. Again, not too much to write home about. We know the standard counts at this point. This is really more of the same. The only thing to bear in mind is that I still kind of like the Yulio hybrid, where even if you're playing a Dustoir line, fitting Luminous Monkey just seems good to me still. But I guess you're down to 6 energy. That's a really low count just to play the 3rd Duskull. I don't know. I feel like Monkey Luminous gives you a backup in the deck that is still just so powerful. The Dragapult mirrors are so hard to watch, man, because and hard to commentate, honestly, because it really is like both of you trying to find the golden combination of like enough energy, your Dragapult plus Gust. So like boss is the most important thing to find, or at least like bundle. So you push the Budgie out the way. I feel like anyone who bundles in Dragapult is going to have a decent time, to be honest, because it's such a big factor of the mirror. And the fact that you can scouting for a bundle gives you additional outs to find boss or Brock to initiate your Pulti X attach Gust hit plan, which is like so important, I think. Because you just become the person to like wipe so many Pokemon off the board, it feels like, because you're both pollinating each other until you find the combo. It's pretty wild. I'm really, like, even though I think Dragapult's the strongest deck in the game, it's bad into Guardy, and the mirror feels so giga trash and not actually, like, skill-based. It's really just like, let's recon and find the right combo first, lol, kind of thing. Which is so, like, gross. I don't know, it's putting me off playing Pult, even though it's the thing I've tested the most. And Zoroark also having a decent result. Shout-outs to the League Headquarters and the Black Belts training. These are both, like, interesting, cool tech cards coming into the deck list, and I think the Black Belt pushing the 170 up to 210 can be a big deal. You can counter-catch a Black Belt KO Fez, which can give you some good defensive lines. You can also allow your Flame Body Cannons to do more damage again, which is cool, even if you don't have Defiance. So that's like a nice card, especially with the Power Pad. I feel like you can get creative there. Also, Blood Moon can get to 280, which is certainly relevant as like a late-game finisher option that your opponent may not expect. So I think the Black Belt's training is actually like a really smart card. And League Headquarters is like, oh, I'm not good into Bolt, I'm not good into Pika. What if I play Headquarters and now my defensive plays become better with HQ Iono? Can suddenly be like a comeback strategy. or just generally jamming it against Joltik is good. I think going into this weekend, I definitely would have played HQ. I was thinking of playing Dragapult, like if I had played, but HQ was the card that I was testing in like the week following up, even in straight Pulse. So cool to see Jan. Really good list, I think. Very, very smart changes of the Zoro. To be honest with you, really good blueprint. It feels like we're getting to that point with Zoroark of getting just like more and more nailed, and I think that was a perfect list. Gino bringing the Zard Pult, and also have the 1/1 Rabska line in here. Chi Yu for the fire type coverage to help out against Golden Go a little bit, and also just be a single prize option. Can also be good into the Raging Bolts and stuff because you can CC and bring up the Teal Masks. Has TM Evo in here, as you'd expect with the Rabska, I suppose, but most of the time you're just trying to get Draclux out. It's strange to see TM Evo and no Charmeleon, but I guess Rabska does take up space. Luminous, of course, being great in the deck. Yeah, we saw Zard Pult do well in Japan, and I think it's probably making more and more of a comeback. I don't think we saw enough of it this weekend to be like, yes, it's here, stake in the ground. But seeing a few people have like high placements is like a good acknowledgement that it's a good combination. Morehouse, one of the UK's finest ever players, just went a flip-flop of Artisan for Nespal from Brent's list. And then we have Camille's straight Pult as well, which again is more of the same. Not too surprising the research is in here over the Jacques, but that's really about it in terms of surprises. Any other interesting deck lists? Well, we see just missing the ASIM cuts was a Moon EX with the Poison package, which is somewhat of a surprise. Don't think you'd have expected that going in. With the heavy catcher in here as well, just trying to bring stuff up and poison bonk them, which is kind of wild. There was a Terror Box in top 16 as well, so a few of them are still going far. I feel like it's an understated deck now. Definitely like underrepresented, but actually, should I say underrepresented? Definitely just like a less popular deck for what we were expecting at the beginning of the format, but it still has a lot of selling points and consistency behind it, of course. There were some Joltik Box, there were some Raging Bolt just falling a little shy. Dengo Pult from Yari, just missing top 16. Still a decent archetype, obviously. Frostas Monkey Dory, top 32, not too bad at all. Some Moon Dunce in top 32. Okidogi in top 32, which we showed on stream. From Matthew here, the Okidogi's good punch. The fantastic, phenomenal, exceptional, whatever punch you want to call it. With the Sizzle backup, also has the Dudunsparce EX as another single energy attachment swing option. Pretty cool to see this sort of come together. We know that it's inconsistent, like that's the obvious thing we can say, but also like the selling points of Okidogi are pretty powerful right now, making it a really buff Pokemon, sometimes even a single prizer with the Chorus's Tenacity. It's just like, it's such a headache to deal with this Pokemon, and this combination, especially with Monkey Dories, right? Like Sizzle Monkey Dory is annoying for Dragapult. Same thing can be said for like Okidogi is so annoying for Miraidon, and even to an extent like the Raging Bolts and whatnot. Like Sizzle should be carrying its weight, and so should the Dunsparce. It's like I feel like Matthew was probably capitalizing on players not knowing the full extent of the deck, which is only natural, right? Who would have expected this combination to come together? But there has to be those situations where if an opponent adapts to like a game 2, maybe because the deck is so like, because it's a one price deck, it's too late for your opponent to adapt to a game 2. But I feel like when they know what's in range, like now players going into an Okidogi matchup should know to limit their bench of abilities and EXs. And if that's the case, like just churning through Doggies is so annoying. The fact they have to keep crispening, the fact there's no EXP share in here as well. I would have thought EXP share would be like a decent option just for one of your Doggies. But I guess you don't have search for tools anyway, so it's a bit weird. It's like, it's not a powerful combination, but it's like good for the context of the format and has like so much surprise factor that you can see why it would take wins. And at least it has like a attempt of a draw engine in there. There was a Greninja Blaze that made top 64 as well. Pretty interesting list because it also managed to fit in a 101 line of for Alligator. It can activate your monkeys. I would have felt like Monkey Dory would be in a higher count in the deck, honestly. But Giant Wave can do 280 on its own. And it gives you a corner trap. So just for a 101 line, it does give you a surprising amount of win con. Kind of wild, honestly. Yeah. When Torchic gets 70 hit points, I will be testing this. I honestly, It's a lot of powerful stuff, but you just get crumbed sometimes because this says 6 in the top corner, not 7. So when we get the new Torchic, I'm all for it. I'm not joking either. I also forgot to go back through the Melbourne lower finishing decks. I will do that as well later. But let's finish off on Santiago first. We do have the day 1 field of Santiago, Dragapult and Raging Bolts next, then Gardevoir, Miraidon, Terrabox and Golden Go. So more of the same, really. It does feel like Terrabox is still more popular than Flareon, but I feel like Flareon is the better positioned deck. I definitely want to be Flareon into Golden Go. I guess I want to be Terrabox into Gardevoir. I guess that's the thing, right? Terrabox is the more balanced Guardy. But Flareon has like a better selling point into this other stuff, I think. Like, I would definitely rather be Flareon into Miraidon or Raging Bolt, I'm pretty sure. Close one, honestly. Let's have a look at this top cut then. There was 12 decks that made the top cut. Gardevoir winning again from Azevedo, and a very different list actually to Brent's. I know I've been saying, like, spouting, why would you not play this list? But William's gone for a different approach with the double TM Evo and the quad Arven coming back into the deck list, and you just have that really thick curlier line and saying, I get to Gardevoir, I beat so many decks, and being less reliant on Candy is pretty cool. Definitely want to try out. William's also just a fantastic player and innovator of decks as well. Brave enough to play other stuff. I think it's Christian's list getting second place by Julian there. We finally start seeing some Joltik box. This is a really creative list. The protective goggles. Now I have to think that this allows Pikachu to tank a Slitherwing so that you give Raging Bolt a really tough time. Like, it turns Pikachu back into like a checkmate card against that matchup. I don't love Baton, to be honest with you. I think Baton's like quite cope because it's so easy for decks to play around the Baton that I've never seen value in it when I've tested this deck. It's like you're so far ahead if they have to hit into it, I suppose, but it doesn't feel like it's that foolproof. The Town Stall, so you don't get mugged off by HQs. Just having any stadium in the deck seems reasonable right now. I'm surprised to not see the Volk. I think Volk is really, really good in this deck. Just to have that extra push and helps you get around Pika and Mirror. This list seems like so techy that I would have expected the player to have that, to be honest. But there you go. There's another top 4 list from Marco. This one's playing the Leaves. This one has Power Glass. I think I prefer Power Glass to Baton, honestly, because Power Glassing Pikachu is really strong. Both playing the Town Store, which is interesting. The one-of Town Store. Maybe people are aware of the HQ tech. Even then, though, it's like a one-off that they have to find under hand block. I don't mind it too much. More straight Pulse, more of the same, really. Nothing too surprising. It's just small tweaks here. There was another Dragazard, so top cut in a couple different tournaments here. This is obviously not playing the Rabsca, so it's a little bit more balanced between the Charizard and the Pulse side of things. Has the maximum belt as the A-spec, so you can push that Charizard if you need to, as well as Phantom Diving, I suppose. Does have the HQ. I do really like the card right now. I think it gives you a lot of protection. One of my teammates, Benji Pham, played Zard Pult with the HQ as well. It did feel like a bit of a hack going into this tournament. And yeah, the Luminous Monkey stuff. Surprised to see no Budgie, though. Like, Budgie must still be good. I know it's good to, like, set up in the face of other Budgie users, but I do think you doing some of these faster decks is still worthwhile a lot of the time. Basically, you want to Budgie Terrabox, right? I suppose. Owen playing a Eevee box. Nothing too surprising. Just the 8 energy. A little on the low side, but does have the E-Search, so you can dual seek for E-Search. I suppose that's about okay. It's just a prizing headache. You either go 3 on Lightning or Water, by the way, just for the crossovers. But yeah, looks more of the same. Kieran in there that we saw in the previous Ian Robb list. There was a tanky Terrapagos. The Volk helps you reach on Dengo, and a few other Pokemon helps you get around Pikachu. Still a headache of a deck to deal with, honestly. Still just like a pain. I just don't think it's that stable into the stage 2s. I feel like your opponent should have counterplay into you. More Dengo Pulse. We're at the stage in the format where you've seen most of these deck lists in one way or another. A Draga Dusk also playing Headquarters, so everyone recognizing that, like, oh, there could be more Joltik box in the format and more Raging Bolt this weekend because it just won. Why don't I just play this one tech? So maybe last weekend was the time to play the HQ. I feel like To be honest, even if Joltik Box is wise to it, they're going to play one stadium. If they're playing two, like, they have slightly higher odds of finding the bounce, but even then you're Ionoing them and crumbing them, so it doesn't matter. And then Raging Bolt, they just have to, like, kind of have it, you know? So I feel like even if the basic decks know about the HQ, I still think it doesn't matter, honestly, which makes it an even safer tech. Another Maractus coming in. This is a Neo Upper Jamming Tower HQ. Yeah, everyone's on the HQ hype. I'm glad that I was on the same page if I'd played this tournament or this weekend. And is this a Brent's list? No, because it's playing Arvens in here. Some additional supporters and the one Poffin. Couple slightly different cards there. There are some standouts. Obviously in top 16, the standout is the Great Tusk Mill with Neutralization Zone. We've seen a few results for Neutralization over the last couple of weekends. There's a lot of Dragapults that play 0 Stadium, or even if they play like 1 or 2, it can be milled away before they can access it. And suddenly Neutralization is just win. And there's a few other archetypes like that, honestly. And yeah, it's an annoying deck, I suppose. I don't know if it's going to start becoming a huge meta threat, but there you go. Lots of the top contenders towards the top end of this tournament. Nothing too outlandish. Yeah, it just really is a mashup. There was a top 64 Zard with the Wellspring. Kind of cheeky. A Blissey and 128. Let me quickly the random decks from Melbourne, because I only looked at the top decks. So there was a Walls in top 16. Milotic Walls. Vital A's back. Oh, it's so back. We really haven't seen much of Walls, have we? What else? Frostas Monkey Dorian 32, another Walls. Yeah, I mean, this was a smaller tournament, obviously, so I'm not going to go too far down because then they're going to be in, like, really average records. Top 64 Cereledge, let's go. Oh, yes, it's the Rev Up build. We're revving up. You cannot Iono that deck away. Fantastic, there we go. Lots of the same, I think, to be honest with you. Gardevoir and Dragapult are busted. Enough Noctowl decks from the Terror boxes, the Flareon that surely can compete, and Raging Bolt, of course, as well. And then I think it feels like the main fall-offs have been Dengo and N. Like, they just don't seem to be potentially right meta placement in that the Joltik Box and Bolt being, like, 3rd and 4th most popular decks become too challenging, certainly for the N, and then the Dengo doesn't appreciate the N and doesn't appreciate Flareon being in there as like the sort of 6th and 7th most popular decks. I don't know. I think Dengo has more legs than the N Zoroark from the meta positioning standpoints. Yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. I'm heading to Portland on Friday. It's weird. I set off on Friday but land on Friday because I gained the time back. But I am going to be absolutely dead. My brain is going to be mush. Another reason why I don't want to play Dragapult myself. I think I'm going to bring just one deck with me. And it's probably going to be Flareon if it keeps going well over my next couple of days of testing. I might also bring a second deck with me in Raging Bolt or Joltik Box, just in case I'm so railroaded and tired from travel that I need to play a Brain Dead deck. This season I have only played Brain Dead decks, and I've got day 2s, but then sunk in day 2 because my deck isn't good against good players at that point. You know what I mean? Let me know what you guys think. Hope you enjoyed. Say hi to me in Portland if you're there. I'm excited for it. My first US regional ever. And yeah, I'll see you in another video tomorrow. Cheers.